panel for the day focuses on the air cargo ecosystem's rapid transformation. Building agile air cargo infrastructure for global expansion and resilience. With surging volumes, shifting trade lanes, and the rise of high-value manufacturing, the demands on air cargo infrastructure are evolving rapidly. This session will examine how digitization, modern terminals, improved airside operations, and stronger multimodal links can create a more adaptive and globally competitive ecosystem. First, I would like to call on stage our absolutely wonderful moderator for this panel discussion, Mr. Fletcher Samuel, Assistant General Manager, Cargo Business, Bangalore International Airport. Mr. Fletcher manages airport cargo handling, logistics coordination, and throughput optimization. He plays a crucial role in enabling efficient air freight movements, strengthening the airport's cargo infrastructure, and supporting India's trade connectivity ambitions. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Mr. Fletcher Samuel. Guys sitting over there, can I have some more energy in the room, please? So much better, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Fletcher. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Contractor, Vice President, FIATA. With nearly 2 decades in freight forwarding and international logistics, he is widely recognized for advancing global forwarding standards, digital trade facilitation, and industry capacity building. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Mr. Contractor. Welcome, sir. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Nikolai Schaffner, Global Head of Commercial Cargo, Swissport. He leads global commercial cargo operations at Swissport and oversees strategy across international markets. With a background in management consulting and economics, he brings strategic acumen and cross-functional commercial insight to global air cargo services. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Mr. Nikolai. Welcome, sir. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Gagan Gupta, Head Cargo Operations, Air India. He oversees air freight handling, cargo logistics, and operational efficiency across the airline's network. With robust experience in aviation cargo management and logistics coordination, he plays a vital role in enhancing Air India's cargo throughput and service reliability. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Mr. Gagan Gupta. Welcome, sir. Next, I would like to call on stage Mr. Stephan Horn. He's a Senior Manager, Strategy and Business Development, Aviation and Cargo Development at Frankfurt, where he drives commercial strategy, multimodal growth initiates, and air cargo development for Frankfurt Airport. He brings great expertise across market development, network optimization, and industry transformation along the entire air freight value chain. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Mr. Stephan Horn. Welcome, sir. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Mungara, Global Head Supply Chain, Cipla. Bringing 26 plus years of experience across pharmaceuticals, chemicals, and manufacturing, his expertise spans supply chain optimization, manufacturing operations, and process engineering, ensuring Cipla's global distribution network remains efficient, complaint, and future-ready. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it from Mr. Mungara. Over to you, Mr. Fletcher. Have a wonderful panel discussion.
Thank you so much, Pinky. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the lunch session. This is not a post-lunch, this is a lunch session for all of us. I hope we'll try to keep it as engaging as possible for all of you. But before I start, something important that I want to let you all know is that we might not give you an opportunity for a Q&A session, because I have a Q&A session for all of you. And I would really expect some of you to please feel free to answer some of the questions, very, very complex, very very difficult questions that I have for all of you. I'm sorry, I'm kidding, but just please raise your hand to the specific questions. But before that, something which I want to highlight is that today the global trade flows are shifting like the flight paths in a storm, and India is just emerging as a key hub in this new map. Today, in this session, what we plan to do is we plan to explore how a digital corridor can become the expressway for India, or for the expressway for data. We can try to evaluate how AI, artificial intelligence and not Air India, can act as an autopilot for cargo operations, and how green facilities can power the future without a turbulence in the air. So, please buckle up. We are about to take off to the journey of strategy, technology, collaboration, and partnerships, right? And yes, unlike your last flight, this one, do not expect any delays. So, to the people here, something before we want to, progress. The questions that I have for all of you here is, any one of you who can explain what a digital corridor is in a sentence? Just raise a hand. Or how many of you know what a digital corridor is? Or what is the objective of a digital corridor? Anyone in the audience? Okay. Second is that, how many of you are already using API-based integrations for the cargo visibility within your own organizations? Anyone? No one? Okay. Who believes, out of you, who believes that a predictive analysis, a very complex word, a very complex mathematical analysis, which is predictive analysis, will replace the manual planning completely by 2030. How many of you believe in this? Good, good. Okay, finally I see some hands. Interesting. So, Tej, because the first question is to you, and that's why I tried doing this particular questions, so that, for you to be prepared in terms of why we are doing digital corridor and what kind of an insight that we want from digital corridor. Given that, while everyone talks about digital corridor, people do not have an understanding what is the purpose of a digital corridor. What are we all trying to achieve? What is the purpose of this? So, my question to you is, while digital corridor has become a buzzword and everyone is talking about it, yet it remains a mystery for many, like here, right? If you had to explain it in a very simple term, like building an expressway of data, how would you define a true digital corridor, what India can have, or Indian air cargo sector can have, and what role can airports play today with their respective air cargo community systems, and integrating that with the various gateways or various hubs across the world? To you.
Thank you very much, Fletcher. That's a lovely question. So how many of you, the question has already been asked already, but how many of you know what a corridor is? Can you raise your hand? Everyone? How many of you know what digital is? Raise your hand. There, you already know what a digital corridor is. Jokes apart, thank you for being so interactive, especially during lunch. Otherwise, we are preoccupied. So one thing that is extremely relevant today, digitalization has gone mainstream over the last 5 years. It has gone from being a file on someone's desk to, I think, mission critical. And what has helped that accelerate further is advancements in technology. AI is not just a buzzword, as we heard it in 22. In 23, it sort of became mainstream. Last year, we spoke about how AI can help us in our operations. And this year, you have even outside a lot of companies who have products now which have rolled out where they have use cases for practical learning. I think digital corridor is going to become extremely relevant. There is a constant need for goods to be cleared faster, better, in a more accurate manner. How many times have we heard around the room saying, my goods are stuck in customs or stuck at the airport or stuck with a regulator. What is the biggest challenge that exists today is all systems, all organizations or regulatory authorities have great systems, but they do not talk to each other. They do not talk to each other either due to operational challenges or regulatory challenges. When we look at a digital corridor happening, say, between two airports, we could look at data flowing seamlessly across from origin to destination. If you have, say, a medicine which has to flow, currently there is data which flows from one organization to another organization and eventually is transferred to the custom declaration, airport, or any other process. What we expect to see in a digital corridor is the moment you file a declaration here, that data is automatically transmitted at destination and goods are already pre-cleared. That is what we expect. It is no longer something that we are just talking about. We are seeing the government take a lot of action. Like, for example, in our opening session and in our sessions, you would have heard of trade corridors. IMEC is one digital corridor which we are going to see very successful in the future. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Yes, that was a pretty simplified version of what a digital corridor is expected to serve. Yes, an integration between two hubs, integration between two gateways, a very seamless transfer of data, and trying to make the information flow, from the shipper to the consignee as seamless as possible. So, next I would like to, come to Stephan. Stephan is from Frankfurt Airport. Frankfurt Airport is the gateway for Europe. Frankfurt Airport has 8 cargo terminals within the facility, handles close to around 2 million metric tons. So, Stephan, I would like to understand it from your perspective. If a digital corridors were like a high-speed rail for the trade data, how are you connecting the different gateways of the world or the different hubs of the world to support your partners? Could you share some exciting initiatives that Frankfurt Airport has driven to make this connectivity and transparency, as transparent as possible, so that you give your customers a first-class experience feeling to them?
Thank you, Fletcher. Yes, I just want to give a brief overview. Frankfurt Airport currently handles approximately 2 million tons of cargo per year. And last year we have outlined our cargo master plan, which sets the growth trajectory for the next decade. We want to grow to 3 million tons of cargo in 2040. And this is not possible without digitization. Digitization is one of the key pillars for our cargo growth strategy. And within this, to make this happen, Fraport has taken the initiative to launch a separate company. This is called Elevate. And this focuses purely on digitization of air freight processes. And now, when it comes to digital corridors, for us, we are, as a Frankfurt Airport, we are looking on key trade lanes around the globe, which we want to develop further in terms of cargo development. And India is one of the key growth markets and focus markets for us. And therefore, we are also looking, for instance, with Bangalore Airport, how we can implement digital corridors. And what does it mean in concrete terms? We have in Frankfurt Airport, with Elevate, we have a cargo community system running, which connects approximately 1,000 players at Frankfurt Airport along the entire air freight value chain, meaning forwarders, handlers, airlines, trucking companies, customs brokers, companies. And now with this cargo community system, we are capable of direct clearance of shipments, and we want to further collaborate with key hubs around the globe to roll out this cargo community system further and to learn together, also to connect cargo community systems from various key hubs around the globe to, as mentioned by Tay, to further, let's say, to make smooth customs clearance, to facilitate global trade flows. And that means that we need to have all the data from the different companies and stakeholders available within the system. And that also means that we have to work together closely with customs, with the airlines. And that means we have to feed, like, for instance, airbuild data into it, air freight manifest data, customs data. And this needs to be then standardized, these corridors, these data within the different, let's say, on these digital corridors.
Thank you so much, Stephan. That's a beautiful insight in terms of how Frankfurt Airport, one of the largest hubs in the world, how are they looking at digital integration, which is a very key, for the success of the air cargos for any of the hubs. Collaborations and digital integration it's what's going to drive the business in the future. So coming back to our airline, Air India. And question to Gagan is that, while today, Gagan, most of the cargo airlines today are operating among the crossroads of the major trade lanes. And with the global flow shifting, how is Air India navigating this? Is it like GPS recalculating the routes or optimizing your network for agility and growth?
So it's an interesting question, Fletcher. This year has been very different for us, of course, because of the accident, plus there has been a lot of geopolitical tension, because of which a lot of our routes are now not using the Pakistan airspace. We are using more fuel for traveling all of the routes. Most of our network is from Delhi. So we have been hit, to be very frank, even on the cargo front and on the passenger front. What we are observing right now, going forward, is that a lot of capacity which was actually previously being handled by Air India is now also being used by some other airlines. For example, we have seen the capacity from London to Bangalore increase on other airlines, but not on Air India, because they get the benefit of moving over to Pakistan and we don't. So same is the case with Delhi, same is the case with Mumbai. We have seen Lufthansa also increase their flights into India because of this purpose. Now, when the passengers come in, similarly the cargo also comes in and the cargo also moves out. So there is some opportunity loss which is there. What we are trying to do and what we are trying to optimize is that we have scaled up our interline expansions. We are doing a lot of interlines. Mainly our hub is London, where we do interline with Delta. We were doing it with North Atlantic earlier, but we mostly do with Delta right now. We are trying to also do interline with some of our competitors in most markets like Emirates. So we have interline on non-compete lanes. We are trying to do interline with Japan Airlines, ANA, not Japan Airlines, but ANA. So we are trying to connect more parts of the world through interlines. In this case, our passenger team is much more active, because they go and do a lot of code shares before us, and then we start looking at cargo also as an option. So the thing is that as Air India, we know that we have to connect to the world, and we have to connect to the world in such a way without thinking that we are competing with one airline or another. Maybe at some point in time we will fly direct to, let's say, not direct, maybe a one stop to Latin America, but today it makes sense to do a tie-up with a LATAM Airlines or a Copa, So we are trying to change the way we operate, but our whole and soul thought process is to connect as many destinations across the world for passengers and for cargo. As on today, including India and abroad, we are connecting to 225 airports. It sounds a very big number, but the thing is that, even if there is a cargo, so the only place probably, in the American mainland which we are not able to connect is Hawaii. We are able to connect to all the airports in America right now through our interline partners or through our trucking partners. So we are trying to innovate as much as we can. And hopefully, with the equipments coming in, we will be able to start more online destinations and online locations. So, and we work very closely with our network team. For example, There's a monthly connect which is there, where we just come into a room, huddle, and decide that the network has to increase here and there. So one example is that Ahmedabad was not an online station for Air India Express, but very recently, Dehradun has come online, Kathmandu has come online for Air India Express, Ahmedabad has come online. Some of these feedbacks have actually come from the cargo team, that we need Ahmedabad as a AIX station. So that's how we are trying to, optimize.
Very interesting to know that, how innovative Air India has. Yes, there were time of crisis, but that brought up a lot of innovative solutions in terms of expanding the network. Very interesting. So I come next to Nikolai. Nikolai represents Swissport. Nikolai, Swissport's global expansion has been impressive. And I think it has gone beyond the traditional practices of cargo and ground handling. What are the unique innovations that can be customized, according to your global expertise for the Indian market? Think of it as adding a turbo booster to a cargo operations for the unique business needs of the Indian trade.
It's indeed true that we've been on a big expansion course. We especially have a strong commitment to growing our cargo footprint, not just over the last couple of years, but also looking forward into the next 3 to 5 years. Cargo growth will continue to be a strategic ambition for us. Of course, also including India. I very much agree with your assessment that this is a strategic growth market, a hub for the entire global air cargo market. So we definitely want to be here. Watch this space. But we're already making a lot of supply chain elements work today, and it ties in nicely to what was previously discussed on digital corridors, for example. I think it starts with the basics, as always. What we've done as one of the only major global ground handlers, cargo handlers, is that we have the same cargo management system in all of our 125 warehouses across the world, which is quite a painful task to execute, as you can imagine, but this is a priority because it sets the foundations to then start building APIs, exchanging data with all sorts of industry participants. So that was, for example, a big first step. We're also investing a lot of money in our digital toolkit, integrated weighing solution, making sure that our scales are tied directly into the digital systems for seamless information exchange, using handhelds in all the warehouses. So that's been very important kind of building block towards this digital vision that will underpin our continued growth. We also learned a couple of lessons from the ongoing e-commerce growth spurt, so to speak. I think e-commerce has changed the industry for the better. It certainly has filled a lot of warehouses. It has paid a lot of annual bonuses to many of us, so we're very grateful. But it's also introduced a new kind of level of expectations, right? Because when you deal with, especially the Chinese e-commerce marketplaces, they have sky-high expectations when it comes to handling time, overall process time. There's a very demanding attitude towards performance, and that's only really possible with a digital suite that underpins this, right? And this is, I think, where we as an industry have started a learning journey towards a vision where there will be real-time tracking, there will be shipment level tracking at some point. But this is the journey that we're all embarked on.
Thank you so much, Nikolai. That's pretty interesting to hear, how Swissport is, charting its way forward in terms of innovation and infrastructure and processes. Now, while you said, the expectation, one of the key word is expectations, and where the expectation comes in is our next speaker. That's an exporter, Mr. Sai. Mr. Sai represents Cipla. Now, Help us clear the perception. I've been hearing, or we have been hearing, that the pharma manufacturers and the exporters are increasingly choosing air over sea recently. Uh, from the Cipla's perspective, what are the risk factors or the operational priorities which are driving the shifts today?
Thank you, Fletcher. Great to be here. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me here. Most Indian companies, pharma companies especially, right, we are all in the space of generic pharmaceuticals. So when we say generic pharmaceuticals, we work with very low margins. Now, what Fletcher said is that we are, companies in India, pharma companies are moving more and more to air. So as we all know, there have been a lot of disruptions over the last few years, starting from COVID to, just when we thought that COVID was stabilizing and we were coming back to normal, then we started having these wars take place, the Russian war, the Russia-Ukraine, then followed by the Middle East. So all of these, and then of course the Red Sea crisis, which aggravated a lot of situation for the pharma companies, for the shipping lines, right? So the disruption that has been caused has been quite tremendous because of all of these events which are not in our control that have been happening. So partly, while the generic pharma that works on very small margins is now forced to go more and more air because of all these factors. Just to delve a little bit more, earlier a sea shipment from India to the east coast of the US would take possibly 25 days when it sailed by sea. And today, because of the Red Sea crisis, we are not able to ship it through the Red Sea. It has to go through the Cape of Good Hope in Africa, resulting in the lead time going up to almost 60 days, 55 to 60 days for the same shipment to go. Now that has resulted in a tremendous pressure on the pharma companies to ensure that the drugs are available on time in a reliable manner to the patients in the US or in Europe for that matter. So part of the reason obviously is the speed. Use air, you can get there much, much faster, just a few days of transit time. The air shipments also ensure that the product is able to get there with a good amount of reliability, especially on the timelines, as well as most pharma products are temperature controlled. So you need to maintain certain, between whether it is 15 to 25 or 2 to 8, depending on the product. And as you all know, pharma companies are in the business of saving lives. And we want to make sure that the products that we deliver are efficacious and all the efficacy of all the products are tested in the temperature ranges. So it's extremely important for us to maintain these temperatures to ensure that the product is safe and efficacious for the patient to take when it reaches them. So some of these factors are playing a very critical role in moving away from the traditional sea shipments to the air shipments. Now, do we want to do that? Obviously, no. But morally, we're kind of forced to do that of late because also the other factor, like I said, we work with very thin margins. But the expense of sending any shipment by sea is typically anywhere between 5 to 6 to 7 times more expensive than sending it by air is 5 to 7 times more expensive than sending it by sea. So despite that, pharma companies are willing to go that extra mile and send the products because of all the challenges that we have been facing. And hopefully with some of the global realignment that's happening, we're hoping that some of this changes the current trend of using more and more air back to sea. I think that's probably a gist of why pharma companies are using this, and the expectations for us is to ensure that the companies providing these services are equally efficient and effective, ensure that the temperatures are maintained, the people working are also well trained so that they're able to move the shipments in a compliant manner to be able to reach to the destination and eventually to the patient.
Thank you so much. For a second, it was the music to our ears when you said that, the ocean is 5 or 6 times higher than air. Everyone from the air cargo would have just loved it. So, okay, I'll come back to Gagan. We have been discussing this many times, but it's time for all of us to start exploring the hidden gems of India. And the two hidden gems of India are not your tier 1 airports, but your tier 2 and tier 3 airports. Now, how Air India, or rather, I'll take your perspective as an airline professional, bringing you out of the shoes of Air India. But tell me, how an airlines can start exploiting these unexplored airport infrastructure and their capacities, and turn them into the next generation hubs, like upgrading them from a regional cargo airports to the regional cargo gateways for the main scale airports.
So we have already started going on this journey. What we are trying to do is that, with Air India and Air India Express together, the cargo is still handled by us for Air India as well as Air India Express. There is no separate cargo. It's as if we are using the belly space of Air India Express. What we have started doing is that, we have started taking bonds, custom bonds in the smaller airports, so that we can transit seamlessly between Air India and Air India Express. So let's say a cargo comes from Dammam into Bangalore on an Air India Express metal. It can move from Bangalore into, let's say, SFO on an Air India metal by utilizing the bond, So while Bangalore is still a tier 1 airport, but think of examples like Trichy, which are major producers of perishables, machine parts, etc. Think of airports like Rajkot. Think of airports like Surat, which are now turning into major hubs for these specific items. While it started from the Prime Minister's vision of one district, one product. You become best in one product. It has not taken off completely everywhere, but some of the areas have really outshined other areas. So you were giving me an example of Tirupur. It has become like a hub of garments, ready-made garments as well as export quality garments. Gujarat, Rajkot, Surat have become hubs for, Surat has become hub for shrimps, mud crabs. Rajkot has become hub for silver. Lucknow and Varanasi have become hubs for carpets, glass beads, etc. Calcutta has become hub for silver jewelry. Jaipur has become hub for silver jewelry. So a lot of these small airports and small areas are outshining themselves. What we have done is that, we are trying to get bonds in all of these places. We are working with the airport operators, which is mostly AI class in these areas, to make sure that if there is a perishable cargo, there is also a cold storage available. So it should not be that, we have to keep the cargo out in open and then the shelf life is at risk. The pilferage is at risk. Another thing what we are doing is that, while we do bonded trucking within the country, we have seen that the quality of trucking is not as good. If you compare it with US or you compare it with Europe or you compare it with Australia, the quality of trucking in India and the handling of cargo is not the best as of now. So we are consolidating our position and only working with now 2 or 3 players in the whole country to make sure that the quality of trucking is very good. And again, there is a saying that, there is a necessity is the mother of invention. We had an issue in June because of which we curtailed our network. We did not have wide bodies across domestic network. Then we switched to trucks. Then we realized it's a good option. And somehow then we shortlisted these 2 or 3 people, and now the quality of trucking is much better. We do it very seamlessly between, let's say something comes to Delhi and you want something trucked to Nalagarh or Baddi. It is very, very seamless. The only thing is that the clearance is in Delhi. It is always beneficial for us to do it on a customs airport. Unfortunately, in India, all the airports are not customs airport, but there are many smaller airports. So, for example, the next hub and the next growth story for a small airport would be in Vizag, Bhogapuram. It is going to be the next pharma hub, hopefully, in next 5 years or so. We also believe that, Trichy will continue to enhance in terms of perishables. and Bangalore will start showing up as a very big hub for fisheries at some point in time. So these opportunities are still there, but still we are waiting for the market to, grow into that. But we are getting ourselves ready with, trucking contracts, interline contracts, bonded, custom bonded permission in these smaller airports. So hopefully we'll be there in next 2 or 3 years.
Interesting. So, just a follow-on question on that, just out of curiosity, most of the tier 2, tier 3 airports continues to remain with I-class. So why do you still have to have, station level bonds, and why can't you have a centralized bond with I-class?
So again, interesting question, but, I think there was an agreement from customs, which is under the finance ministry, that there needs to be a single bond across the country.
Correct.
But it is not applied on the ground level to such a level.
Yeah.
So when we go to a particular airport and we say that we'll have a centralized bond, none of the customs officials are agreeing to that. They are saying you need to have a separate bond for Bangalore, separate bond for Air India, separate bond for Air India Express. So there is a certain cost which is there. So every time we get a customs bond, the letter comes from President of India that you are allowed to now do transshipment from so and so port. But still that one bond thing is not applicable. It has not been applied in the true sense, similar to what the transshipment policy is doing. The policy is there, the agreement is there, the ministry is saying that yes, we should do it, but on the ground it is still not applied.
Okay, so probably that's one of the action items for all of us. But just a small correction in something that you have said, that the necessity is the mother of innovations. It's not the necessity, it's also the crisis. All right, so I'll come next to Tej. Tej, this is in continuation to my question with Gagan on exploring tier 2, tier 3. From your perspective, I want to understand today. If I'm an exporter and I am operating, let's say if I have a manufacturing center, let's say in Tirupur, let's take an example of Tirupur. Why do I have to go only to Bangalore or Hyderabad or Chennai to do the custom clearance, process my good and uplift from that particular airport? Why can't I simply use the tier 2, tier 3 airports? Or rather, why can't I use any of the ICDs and CFS for clearing the air cargo? Yes, there is an issue, there is a challenge in terms of an ice gate. We continue to use the air and the ocean module of an ice gate, but why? Why are we not integrating the ice gate under a same umbrella? And any of the exporters can use their respective ICDC, because that's everywhere across the country. They can use that infrastructure for custom clearing their goods and send the shipment straight to the respective airports for upliftments, and the post-shipping documentations becomes far more clearer and easier within their own region. Would like to share some thoughts on that?
Well, I think this is a very interesting thing you brought out, and this is where we see disparity between air and sea. In sea, we've always seen the hub and spoke model work. And I will go back about 20 years. Now you have direct services, from all ICDs to various locations. You have direct boxes. But earlier you had to make a hub box to the gateway ports, and then you did it. Largely the policy has extended out to air as well, where AFS as a concept has become a little bit popular, but it's more of a regulatory framework issue rather than general or a generic issue per se. As far as a custom station is concerned and IceGate is concerned, IceGate is ready to take on any challenge. It's just that you have to map them accordingly. So once the regulatory process falls into place that this is the gateway hub. So a very interesting thing I will tell you, when we had a crisis in the West Coast about 10 years ago, you had a vessel blocking the channel in JNPT. Now you had cargo which had to move, but technically you could not clear cargo in JNPT or Pune and send it to a Gujarat, when logically that should be possible. So the system is built in such a way where you have a gateway port mapped to certain ICDs or locations. The same thing applies to the airports. It is, for about 10 years now, we have been representing saying you could clear cargo at a CFS. In Nhava Sheva, you could clear, and then tomorrow if you want to send it by air, you can send it by air. You could clear cargo at a place in Jaipur and take it further. But Alongside that, let me share a few insights. The government is thinking very radically in the last few years. The amount of insight customs is integrating, so IceGate is going to evolve. We spoke in the last question about corridors. The main challenges there we found are participating government agencies where government to government exchange takes place. IceGate is going to move to something called a customs integrated system. And that is going to be a game changer. And let me share with you, I have had the pleasure of sitting with some colleagues who are involved with IceGate, and it's insane their thought process. First, they are talking about 1 hour custom clearance. Okay. It is something that we could not think of earlier. You can clear cargo today and export within a few hours. Okay. In import, you can't clear cargo in 1 hour. They're talking about clearing in 1 hour. The second concept that they're saying is we want custom clearance to take place before your flight or vessel arrives. And the concept of clearing cargo as a vessel. They are going into nitty-gritties like microprocesses, how to handle the whole framework. Entering, I think in the next 2 years, by 2027, they're talking about taking it mainstream. I think the relevant thing is that the representations made by everyone in trade, by the airports, by the airlines, by the custodians, by eventually trade, has been saying that we want goods to be cleared closer to where we can and hand over risk to the airline or to the carrier to take it. It's not too far out where we will see this become a reality. Systems are geared. I think policy has to catch up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tej. All right, so I'll come next to Nikolai. Nikolai, from a cargo terminal perspective, automation and modular systems still sounds very futuristic. It's almost like building a Lego city, right? So how can today innovations like these can make cargo operations and the terminal scalable and efficient? And what are the practical steps that you think that can be used by the cargo handlers to make this vision of automation far more real?
Yeah, that's an important topic also for us, of course. Automation, I think currently, I think a lot of the low-hanging fruits for us are still on the digital side. I think we've heard a couple of examples about the customs processes and where there's maybe potential for improvement. I think that general cluster of processes is definitely where we see a lot of automation and efficiency improvement potential. And this is definitely something that unlocks real business, right? I think especially my colleague from Frankfurt Airport can attest to the fact that once customs is on board, once customs is streamlined to a certain degree, that unlocks a lot of additional flow growth, a lot of additional business. We've seen this with the example of e-commerce recently, which has taken a lot of work, I think, especially in Europe, to some degree also in the US, to secure the buy-in for customs. And I think there, for example, automation can be a big part of the equation. But obviously, it's a 360 approach. So recently, we've been able to engage in a partnership with China Eastern and a number of logistics partners in Shanghai Pudong, and that facility, which will be managed by Swissport going forward, is really it's next level in terms of automation, right? So I think that's again where e-commerce or kind of the Chinese approach to e-commerce is setting the standards to what hopefully will be also our ambition as an industry, right? With robotics, with shipment level X-rays at destination, and hopefully that will enable in a next step then what we discussed earlier, right? Which is pre-flight customs clearance, and then we're at an additional level of efficiency, which will drastically reduce the total travel time of many items.
Yes, very interesting what you said. Yes, that will all, automation is going to be a big game changer, and, it is important for all the cargo terminal operators, ground handlers to start looking at and considering them how soon they would want to get that adapted. Now, I'll come back to, to Mr. Sai. Mr. Sai, for the temperature controlled shipments or temperature controlled pharmaceuticals, no compromise on reliability is like asking no turbulence on flight, right? So what does that mean in practice? If you can highlight more on that, and how should an infra and a tech deliver that kind of an assurance to an exporter?
Sure. As I said earlier, right, we are in the business of saving lives. So the pharmaceuticals have to be not just manufactured in a compliant way, have to be moved and stored in a very, very compliant manner. What that means is that the temperature conditions and the humidity typically conditions that have to be maintained to ensure that the product continues to be effective for the patient who's taking the drug. So reliability for us is, of course, ensure that the compliance is fully maintained, as well as the product is made available when we say that it's made available. Right? In just, I would say that is reliability. How can technology help in ensuring that some of these reliabilities are maintained? The reliability obviously is extremely critical, as I said. So right from storage, if you take warehouse, we want to ensure that the warehouses are equipped with all the temperature control, be it warehouse where we store the product at the airport, in transit, or at the destination places. The warehouses are equipped with temperature control facilities and potentially redundant power backups in case of any unfortunate event of loss of power, etc. So the warehousing infrastructure needs to be very solid and adequate. The tracking of the temperature today is done using the data loggers, which are a very passive kind of equipment that is kept in every shipment and then retrieved at the other end. And God forbid, in the process, if the temperature goes up, then the product potentially cannot be used, right? And then changing from those to more GPS-enabled tracking devices, not only to track the product, but also to ensure that the temperatures are maintained with potential AI intervention where needed if the temperature, for example, is tending towards going out of range, right? So today, some of the challenges that we face, so that's one area where technology can help. Then in the airports, for example, not all airports today are equipped with fully temperature compliant facilities when we unload the product from the aircraft. So from the time it gets unloaded from the aircraft till it gets loaded onto, let's say, a truck, when it goes and gets transported to a warehouse during the transit where it is expected to load to another, let's say, aircraft. Some of the airports are now equipped for this transfer to happen in a compliant manner where they have maintained the temperatures, but not all airports are equipped with that. And during peak summer times, temperatures can go up to 30, 40, 50 degrees Celsius, which make the product unusable. So that is another infrastructure piece that we would hope to see all the airports at some point have in place. In addition, I think some challenges, for example, we face in India when we want to export a temperature compliant product. So we sometimes use envirotainers, which are these containers which are validated to be maintained at a certain temperature for a long time or for a certain period of time. The customs, for example, in India, doesn't let us get the envirotainers to our facilities. And India is probably one of the only countries that doesn't allow that. Globally, you can take these envirotainers because these envirotainers have value, and somehow the customs thinks that it'll get used for other purposes in India, God knows what. But so as a result, we have to move the cargo that we want to export to the export warehouse, the customs warehouse, store it in the warehouse, get the envirotainer, and then move it into the envirotainer, and then transport it out. As a result, there are a lot of these chances of the product getting exposed to temperature fluctuations, which easily can be avoided. So in some of the other things that we can also use is these packaging, the new packaging, let's say the new technological packaging that can happen where the packagers can come up with more compliant and efficient packaging methodologies. That will help. Some of the other areas that we can also seek help from the experts here is having proper SOPs in the airports to ensure that the products, the pharma products, are treated a little differently than, let's say, a garment or some other products that get transported together. So that having that awareness that pharmaceuticals are very sensitive, need to be treated and handled differently, and ensuring that the airports are having that infrastructure in every which way possible. The people are knowledgeable, the procedures are well defined, the infrastructure is in place. All of that is going to help pharmaceutical companies to ensure that that reliability quotient of products being shipped is much higher than what it needs to be.
Thank you so much, sir. So yes, some points are very interesting. One is yes, envirotainer that would ideally solve the purpose of maintaining the the integrity of the product. Doing the build-up of the envirotainers and sending straight to the airport. Currently, it's all not allowed. I think it's not the customs. It's because of the regulatory framework that the airports work. But while we are talking about looking at integrating technology and artificial intelligence, which is going to help us again prevent the pharma, what do you call what is the term? It's the integrity of the pharmaceutical products, right? So ultimately, that's the aim objective. Now, from that perspective and the wish list that you had given that the infrastructures should look at it from a technology aspect, I come next to Stephan. Now, Stephan, today artificial intelligence is acting like it's as the co-pilot for the modern cargo terminals. Now, today in Frankfurt, given the scale of the business, you have your pharma zones, you have your perishable handling centers, the 8 terminals that you have. How is Frankfurt using artificial intelligence today to predict the delays, optimize the resources, and also to make a real-time decisions, almost like an autopilot for your operations?
Yeah, it's, I think, clear for everyone here in the room that AI, artificial intelligence, digitization is imperative to future-proof the air freight ecosystems and the related parts of the air freight supply chain around the globe. And yeah, but on the other side, when looking on the concrete or on the practical adoption of artificial intelligence within the supply chain, now for us at Frankfurt Airport, then we have to take a case-by-case basis and evaluation. I just want to give a brief deep dive on a use case we are currently evaluating and where we are piloting. It's on real-time tracking and tracing of the air freight shipments within Frankfurt Airport. We are in the phase of further developing a cargo dashboard. We have that already set up for import. We will now extend it also for export. And this dashboard features AI capabilities. That means we are able, based on machine learning algorithms, to forecast then the inbound and outbound trade flows from the different flights from the various airports. And that is then directly connected to the first point we touched here with the digital corridors. For instance, if we know, let's say, there are flights coming from Bangalore and they have like 120 tons of cargo, and this is destined for Swissport, and then we can actually know, okay, Swissport now needs at that point in time, they have to have that staff level and they need to have that resources available. And that is really something when we really connect all the dots within the supply chain by AI, using AI, that really brings the benefit. And additionally, for us as Frankfurt, taking this example now with the staff level, you might know in Europe and also particularly in Germany, we are really lacking of staff, especially when it comes to jobs in logistics, in air freight, handling, and then AI can really be a real contribute and also a kind of, I will not say game changer, but a real advantage in better utilizing our resources. And additionally, also when coming to pharmaceuticals, when we enable these, let's say, digital real-time transparency on the trade flows is also something which the forwarders and you as a pharmaceutical shipper demand from us from a customer perspective, that we really have these real-time track and trace capabilities. You want to know where your shipment is at the airport. You want to know where it is during the flight. And this is, I think, digitization and the AI tools is really something which can move us forward in this arena, in this area, and overall brings the air freight business to the next level, also in competition to other transport modes, and also then directly connected to these digital corridors. But it's also clear we as Frankfurt Airport, we cannot do that alone. Here we are an airport operator, but for us it's really important to work together with the air cargo community. Frankfurt, for instance, there we have over 100 members. Also, Swissport is involved in it as a ground handler, but also as one of the biggest cargo handlers on site. And only by bringing together this knowledge, this expertise of the different stakeholders within the supply chain, we are really can make this change happen. For instance, we have also within the air cargo community, we have a sub-working group which is called Hub Performance. There we are also evaluating how we can best make use of technology, of new tools, etc., to leverage these benefits of AI tools. And that's, I think, a joint approach, and where everyone is invited to bring in also new ideas and to test. We have to start with pilots and then to see and to scale that and further up. Also, with other airports, gateways, to make that change happen.
Great. Thank you so much. Now, gentlemen, as we have just 10 minutes left, my last round of questions to all of you, and I would request all of you to just quickly wind that up in quick 2 minutes. But before that, I just want to do a quick nap test, because it's a post-lunch session. So just people out here, just kindly raise your hand if anyone of you is aware or have heard about digital twins for cargo terminals. No one. Okay. Now, how many of you within your own organizations have implemented the paperless trade and the workflows? Yeah. Okay. Now, and so including you, you can also answer this, that, do you believe that the IoT sensors will become mandatory for pharma shipments going forward? No, you have to just raise your hands if you do not.
IoT centers are going to be mandatory. I don't know if they'll be mandatory, but they'll definitely help in ensuring some of the challenges that we talked about earlier, right, to get them resolved. Having the connected world, we've been talking about Industry 4.0 for the last 10, 15 years, 20 years now almost, right? So that has evolved now to becoming a more smarter world with artificial intelligence. Some of the things like Tej mentioned, for example, earlier, where you can actually file your papers much ahead of time, and by the time the cargo arrives at the airport, it's all ready to be cleared. So currently, I think US already enables some of that today, where you can actually file 24 hours before the shipment arrives at the airport, and it gets cleared by the time you get there. And things like what Stephan also just said, right, about having a lot of planning ahead of time. The AOT would definitely help in ensuring that the partners along the supply chain are prepared ahead of time, because they know exactly what's happening in the world. In the for the shipment, they can be prepared to receive it, take it away, store it away, or be ready for the next leg of the shipment, etc. So once you have this connected world with the AOT, I think a lot of possibilities do exist. So I think it's definitely going to be making our lives a lot more efficient. Whether it's going to be made mandatory, I think just because of the efficiency it offers, I'm sure everyone would want to use those technologies moving into the future.
All right, thank you so much. Now, just No, Ayushi is here. She's not letting me take the one round of questions. So, if you still permit, we can. Yeah, all right. I'm sorry. So, just a quick question because we asked about, the digital twins and, the paperless, how effective it is. I wanted to have a perspective from Tej. Tej, just a quick one. Today, the digitalization and the paperless, trade promises speed. But is it really working? How effective it is? Or are we still stuck in the traffic of the high compliance highway?
This is a very interesting question. Okay, so I will take it a step back and we will link up the first and third question. And this is where it's relevant for trade bodies. So first we'll talk about filing declarations or data. Everyone here, if you really look at it, we are all a part of the supply chain. Be it a custodian, be it a customer, a broker, a logistician, etc. Now, when we talk about seamless flow, integration of technology, I think the first important problem that occurs, and it starts right here with the badge we're wearing, trust. We all know garbage in, garbage out. So, are you truly allowed to enter or authenticate data? If I want to do it at Swissport or at Frankfurt airport, I cannot because I don't have domicile otherwise. If Mrs. Sai's company wants to file a custom declaration in the US, unless and until you do it through a local representative, you cannot. Right? So first, we must realize how do we address that problem? Okay. And the answer is quite simple. It lies in trade bodies, trade associations, etc. Coming to the second part, I took that on because you mentioned customs. I am a custom broker, fourth generation, and unless and until you are on a platform, you can't transact. In 1997, I saw the first traditional custom declaration which was typed become digital. Let me tell you, customs has come a long way, and today it is far further in terms of digitalization than most of the private sector. That being said, there are still challenges. Although we talk about paperless, there are challenges where paper is easier. You will find in certain locations the system has that data, but the data doesn't open on the officer's desktop. So when they have it on paper, it's much simpler. You have now ICE tabs, so examination. Earlier, there used to be a lot of examination of goods. Now there is certainly a reduced examination. The officer will go around the airport or the port, examine the goods, come back and type the examination order. They have been given now tabs to do that. But in reality, can you type a 6-line examination order on a tab? It's not that easy. Number two, what if you don't have network in some locations? So when we talk about paperless, I think the problem is not customs and ICE gate. The problem is this whole chain sitting right here. Why? Because when you go to hand over goods to an airline or a custodian or a shipping line, they will ask for the same to be put in paper as a copy. It's tradition. Old habits die hard. Gagan used a very important thing. Necessity is effectively where innovation comes from. I started building technology products 10 years ago in my own office. I'll tell you a small joke. I hired a guy and we gave him, when it's nowadays, the interview is both ways. It's not only about you hiring them, they also interview about a lot of questions. So we gave him, we said we do this much volume, this is what our expectation is from you. 15 minutes later, one of my managers walks in and he says he's unsure of joining. So I said, why? He says, we have committed him a volume, but he's not seen paper around the office. He was so used to a paper environment that he didn't see around. So he thought that we were sort of hoodwinking him in some way. But, you know, we have to forget what we have learned to take that step further. The problem is not just customs and a certain agency. The problem is the entire supply chain, which has to go paperless, and that's only going to happen with in two ways. One, we need to have that real want to do it. Can I tell you, even today, you receive documents from customers, and in this whole chain, in an email or in a PDF file. That's not paperless. That's eventually someone printing it out or manually entering it in the system. So there has to be a will. And the second thing is that there has to be a way. Interoperability is the key. And let me share, it's no secret, there is something called the FIT Alliance, Future in International Trade, where you have the shippers, the ICC, you have BIMCO, you have DCSA, you have FIATA as the International Federation of Freight Forwarders, who are working towards a completely digital environment. The important thing is demand, ask. If we make that passion, we make that request, we will get what we want. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tej. Yes, we are almost there, right on time. That's 10, 9, 8, 7. So, but paperless, the only thing that I've heard paperless, what is the meaning of paperless? What is the term paperless? The only thing that as an airport operator, what I've heard is pay per kg less. But anyways, thank you so much, all of you, for joining us for a very high energy discussion today. We had a wonderful panel. Let's have a big round of applause for every one of them. Let's keep innovating, partnering, and pushing the boundaries together. Thank you so much, everyone. As promised in the start, we will not give you time for Q&A. But it is now up to Ayushi to decide if we can take one or two. 2 questions? Okay. Back to you all. If you have any questions, we can take just 2 questions.
Mr. Sai, right? My name is Sashi, and we work in the technology area. So when you said like your provenance on the particular whale or temperature-sensitive medicines reaching end to end, how do you do provenance today? Do you have solutions which can be put on record saying, okay, look, this is not contaminated, and you can actually have enough confidence that we can actually use these life-saving drugs after a long travel? How do you ensure that? Are you using AI or, earlier there was a lot less image management, but now because of AI, I think you can figure out if the structure of your medicine has changed or not because of a change in temperature. And do you also do any kind of provenance on the blockchain? That's 2 questions.
That could be a long answer, but so in the way the pharmaceuticals work, right, during the development cycle, one of the very important aspects is the shelf life that gets assigned to the pharma product. So the shelf life is based on certain storage conditions at which the product is not only made but also stored at. And when there is a change to that storage condition, there is no guarantee that the product that is made is going to still work the same exact way. So how do you ensure that, let's say there is a temperature deviation and still the product could potentially be effective and efficient? So you have to generate the data to make sure that the product is stable under those, let's say, excursion conditions that the product went through. So that's one way. The other part of the question, I think you also answered, how do you ensure that the product is not duplicated in some way, or it's like a safe in the custody of the supply chain? So countries like the US and the Europe have come up with this concept of serialization, where the product has to maintain, for example, in Europe, once the manufacturer sells a product into Europe, the manufacturer has to upload the serial numbers of all the products that have been entering into the European market into a portal that is provided by the European Union. So at the time of dispensing, the pharmacist actually ensures that he verifies the authenticity of the product by checking against that national repository that it is actually a genuine product before he dispenses the product. So similarly, US also has a law that is just passed and it's implemented now, it's live, to ensure the authenticity of the product.
Right.
I hope those answer your questions.
No, so thank you so much. Given the paucity of the time, gentlemen, I'm really sorry. We'll have to cut down. We'll have to maintain to only one question. But thank you so much, and a big round of applause to my fellow panelists, to all of you being a wonderful audience. Thank you so much once again. Ayushi, over to you. Oh, sorry, Pinky.
You know how you know that the panel was absolutely amazing? Nobody left the room. So ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our absolutely wonderful panelists for today. May I please call on stage Mr. Mohit Mehani to give away the trophies and felicitate our absolutely wonderful panelists. And would like Mr. Fletcher to join Mohit in doing this. I would first like to felicitate Mr. Tej Contractor from FIATA. Guys, keep the applause on. Next, we would like to felicitate Mr. Gagan Gupta from Air India. Next, we would like to felicitate Mr. Nikolai Schaffner from Swissport. Next, we would like to felicitate Mr. Stephan Horn. Next, we would like to felicitate Mr. Sai Mungara from Cipla. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to felicitate our absolutely remarkable moderator for this session, Mr. Fletcher Samuel. Can we have a group photograph, everyone in the front of the stage, please, and the center? Thank you. Can we have a smiling group photograph, please? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mivani, and thank you, esteemed panelists.